Right, welcome back to Rambling Achieved. This is episode 3, and wow, what a story that we've got here today.
Emergency press conference, breaking news.
Yeah.
This is oh
This is
my
me 4 in the
goodness.
morning, having just woken up.
Oh, is it 4 in the morning your time?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I'm sorry, brother. Yeah, this whew, what a story to wake up to and goodness gracious. Seeming
Yeah.
like Xbox going fully third party or close to it.
Yeah, out of nowhere. Obviously, there's been rumblings that Starfield could have been landing on a PlayStation console leading up to the release of the game, and then a little bit after, but a lot of people shutting it down, saying that, no, they've paid all this money. There's no way they'll put it on them platforms and stuff. And I don't know, the waves last night seemed to suggest the complete opposite, that they're
The-
probably going to be putting it on a PlayStation console
yeah.
soon.
The only reason that I give more credence to these rumors, leaks, whatever you want to call them, is because it came from the dude. It's from the Xbox Era podcast, I believe. I don't want to get anything wrong here. Yeah, Xbox Era podcast. They're one of their hosts, Nick. He's the same dude who leaked all the information about the state of play, where it was like down to the letter,
Mm,
everything that was revealed almost. Um, and like Sonic Cross Shadow Generation, like there's some stuff that he leaked where it's you just wouldn't have threw out that at a wall. You know
no,
what I
yeah,
mean?
you have to have at least a tiny bit of breadcrumbs to be going off of, even if it isn't 100% accurate, but you seem to get things pretty spot on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, I, like I said, I don't know about entire track record. I don't know, if he's been doing this for how, I have no idea really. But I know that state of play, he was on the money and there were some wild things that he leaked that he couldn't have just, predicted.
Yeah.
So this is, I want to kind of just get a initial gut check from you because you're the true Xbox OG. You know, you've been there the longest. I'm a newcomer, which I think is a interesting thing there that we'll get into where it's like, well, why did I buy this thing in the first place? But oh well, oh well, oh well. I want to go to you first because I think that your opinion is going to be more insightful as a long-term fan. How do you feel about all this?
Well, the initial gut reaction obviously is, I guess, maybe an inner fanboy, but you think that, PlayStation isn't putting any of their stuff on Xbox anytime soon. They're not in that position where they're that desperate. Their numbers are doing completely fine. This is very worrying because it's one of two paths. Either they're gonna try this and it's gonna backfire, and then they might try and crawl back to this like instance that they're in now where they're a normal console and try and do things normally, or this is them tapping out in a more graceful way than like Sega did, for instance. Sega just became a publisher in the end, didn't they? They had their own consoles and they backed out of the market. Maybe maybe Xbox feeling they're not making enough progress as quickly as they would hope. And now that they've acquired Activision Blizzard, they probably don't care about them sales on Xbox, maybe.
Yeah. And it's like I think the weird thing is when factoring in Activision Blizzard, they immediately, I don't know if they're number one, but they would immediately be in the top two, three publishers in the world just by having Activision because they're,
Mm,
top two, top three publishers in the world. So it's really, that's an interesting angle where if you look at it purely from a financial sense, it's like, okay, the console has 40, 50 million players, the series generation, whatever it is, I don't even think it's at 40, 50 million yet, but somewhere in that realm, say by the end of the generation, if they get to 50 million, and then you look over at PlayStation and it's at 100 million, and then you look over at the Switch and they're at 100 plus million, and you're like, well, shit. they are going to pay $70 for our game. We can give it to our player base for $15 on Game Pass. I understand the appeal of exclusives. Like I said, getting into the Xbox ecosystem this generation, the reason I got in was because the purchase of Bethesda and Obsidian and In Exile and these different studios, Ninja Theory. And I'm like, okay, well, cool. If I'm going to be able to play their games, I need to get the box.
Mm.
And now I'm like, why did I buy this thing? I mean, I like Game Pass as much as the next guy, but I don't need Game Pass.
Yeah, no, this is exactly it. But because one of the news stories that broke out on the 31st of January, which is what I was going to touch on anyway to begin with, even if this news didn't break, but Microsoft's gaming revenue went up 49% after Activision Blizzard joined their team.
Yep.
So seeing them numbers jump literally almost 50%, they're thinking, why are we doing what we're doing? We don't even need to do this anymore. We have
Yeah.
this cash cow. This is just, you know, we'll just branch out into every possible platform that we can and just milk it for all of its worth.
Yeah. And it's hard to really look at that strategy and that's the thing from a fan perspective. I like going back to the PS2, GameCube, Xbox days, and it's like, yeah, if I'm gonna play friggin' Halo, I'm getting an Xbox. If I'm
Mm.
gonna play, Resident Evil 4 for a little bit, I'm getting a GameCube, and which I guess that's the thing too, where it ended up getting ported over as well due to the success of the PlayStation. But it's like, yeah, I do like the idea of exclusives, and I like the idea of having a competitor to PlayStation in the console market. That's the thing that scares me the most. Like totally greedy, uh, no competitor in sight to PlayStation. What does that look like? What does that version of Sony look like? And you could say, okay, well, Xbox isn't a real competitor right now, and sure, but at least it's something.
I mean, in modern times, yeah, but you got to think of what Microsoft did for gaming. They were the first to turn around and go, look, here's an entire online based system where it connects literally everybody. This isn't just like, achievements and stuff of what they also drew to the forefront because that wasn't PlayStation either, but like taking that first step for online gaming and stuff like that. They've always moved forward. They've never stagnated. And then they've had this period of stagnation and they don't know what to do with it because they put all their eggs into the Connect and trying to do this media bullshit with that whole fiasco blew up in their face. And they've been stumbling ever since, and they seem to have landed on this Game Pass thing. And it's worrying because it feels like they people jokingly say it's the Netflix of gaming. It could genuinely be that. With them going so deep into cloud gaming, the expenses of running the Xbox, like background systems and everything and all of that, they could just be like, well, it's not worth the money of doing that. We can just cut that and we'll just use it as a service. We will
Yeah.
keep our first party completely exclusive on the Game Pass so that it gives somebody a reason to only subscribe to Game Pass and then use these other Bethesda things as filler to put in there, but also give it to other platforms to get them big $70 sales. And that feels like what they want to do.
And once again, it just seems so hard to argue with it from a business standpoint. Like I once again, as a fan, I don't really love this scenario because I really do think exclusive content breeds some sort of competitive nature
Hmm?
where you're wanting to one up the next guy. And I think it at the end of the day, of course, you can make a pretty clear argument that it's not better for consumers to have to go and buy a $500 box just to play one, two, three games or whatever. I understand that argument for sure. But I do think, in terms of the competitive development scene, I think you do lose a little bit of something, but I don't know. Once again, as you said, Xbox has been on they've been cutting edge from the get-go, and this is another cutting edge risk that they're taking. So who knows if this kind of they roll this damn boulder down the hill and it picks up enough steam that this is just kind of the future of gaming in general. Like I don't know, you know what I mean? That's the thing where you can't really predict these things, but could PlayStation end up doing the same thing? Maybe not Nintendo, but they're in their own little world.
Yeah, no, with that's a good point of saying like the future of gaming. You to be the person to make massive change, you've got to be the villain. You've got to be the first person to be that villain, you know? And they're already in bad public light with just really pushing for an all digital future. So they're already in people's shit books.
It's weird that like everything they do though, I get how we feel about it, but if you look at it just from a broad sense, like say somebody weren't so you're talking to an alien who's never played a video game.
Mm,
If you laid out everything that Microsoft is doing from a consumer standpoint, it's really not the villain arc. It's technically the good guy arc.
yeah,
Well, hey, these players over here, we got Hi-Fi Rush, one of the best games of 2023, Starfield, one of my favorite games of 2023. Like, you guys want to play it? Cool. Here, man. Throw us some cash, play our game. Like it really is like that is kind of the if you were looking at
yeah,
a villain and good guy arc, hero villain arc, like that is kind of the heroic move, but it defeats the purpose of buying the box.
yeah, and that's why it's worrying because you think that maybe the all digital thing that they're doing, that little cylinder console, it might be the last console that they do end up doing, and then
Yeah.
they can just phase it out. Because, like I said, with them putting so many eggs into that cloud gaming thing, maybe that's where they think the future is at. By the time that we get to the end of that life cycle of that cylinder box, maybe there's enough infrastructure for people to reliably game with cloud, which
Yeah.
is even more worrying because that's not only you not thinking that you own something digitally, you don't own anything, that they can just pluck that whenever they want. They can just be like, we don't, you know,
Yeah. And I mean,
that's done bad numbers. We'll just remove that from the service.
right, and we're already seeing that for digital only games, just insanity. But that's the thing where if we do get to that point where cloud is ubiquitous in the same way that digital downloads are, then like, yeah,
Hmm.
it's just going to be a PlayStation. Some service is going to come with your TV or you'll download an app or whatever the case may be. It's not going to be boxes. So to have your content available everywhere, like that is a forward thinking mindset if they do believe that infrastructure will develop and materialize over the next uh 10 years.
Well, yeah, you think of TVs now. We bought a brand new TV, I think it was like a year and a half ago. It comes pre-installed with Netflix for Christ's sake. Like you
Yeah,
don't even need to take them steps anymore. These things are automatically installed and they're just ready to go because they
yeah.
do their little partnerships with them, and that's it feels like that's the route that they want to take.
Yeah, yeah. It'll get there. I assume I've predicted like 10, 15 years before it becomes like ubiquitous. But I've predicted a lot of wrong shit in the past. So it could be 5 years, it could be 3 years. Like, and if that's the case, if the acceleration is happening on a rapid level that we don't understand, then I mean, those are the people that would understand it.
Yeah,
They're
well,
the people pushing it.
the writing was on the wall. I think we were just all ignorant as well because what was the thing during the Activision Blizzard thing that they kept halting talks over? It wasn't the fact that they were buying the games, it was the fact of the cloud streaming rights.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
have they seen that's so worrying? Then what's the data that they're showing them that's like, holy crap, you need to like, if you obtain all this and you get cloud exclusive rights, like that's gonna blow everybody else out of the water. Like, what did they see?
And that was what Ubisoft had to come in with, right?
Yeah,
Ubisoft now.
they've tied up partnership. I think it was a very long deal as well, not like a short term deal.
I thought as soon as I saw that, I was like, what if Microsoft buys Ubisoft? Like, what then? What can you do with that? I guess they would have some sort of stipulation where they couldn't do that, but I don't I don't remember seeing that in any sort of documentation. But yeah, that does seem to be the undeniable future. Let me ask you this. I don't buy physical Xbox games often at all, but if they put Starfield, Hi-Fi Rush, all that stuff on PlayStation, I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you. To have it if it was all on disc, like if they didn't do it the Xbox way, you don't
Exactly.
think they will?
No, no, they will, but this is the problem.
Oh,
This is why nobody buys fucking Xbox games on disc, is because the majority of it is not on the disc.
exactly.
It's like, for instance, that I've got this here, right? Tales of Arise.
Yeah.
It has the Xbox logo indicating that it has the capabilities of being a Series X game. You put this in offline, it's only the Xbox One version on the disc. You need to be
Yep.
connected to the internet to access the Series X version. That's insanity.
Yeah.
And it was the craziest thing, like, that I've seen in the past few years is the fact that Cyberpunk went and did everything on disc for Xbox only.
So
Of
weird.
all the platforms that you
I
could have
just
done it for, why did you take that stance and then
yeah.
not do that for PlayStation?
Yeah, I just picked up the Cyberpunk PS5 version and it's like it's crazy. They have the, little Phantom Liberty
Yeah.
sticker at the top, but it's that shit ain't
It's
on
a
the disc.
is it a code in
Yeah,
there?
it's just a code.
See,
Yeah.
that doesn't even make sense because I'm fairly certain as well that they use different forms of disc.
I think they use 3 for Cyberpunk if I'm not mistaken to get it
Yeah,
all.
I meant the type of like Blu-ray kind of thing. You can
Oh
put more
yeah, yeah they do.
information and data on a PlayStation disc than you can a standard Xbox disc. It's
Yep.
why they can't do both versions. So
Yeah.
it's baffling that you couldn't just put that all onto a PlayStation.
Baldur's Gate 3 actually might have been the company that did the 3 discs. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, it just says includes PSN voucher code. So it's like it's yeah, I mean that's the thing, and that's the I talk about it in a video that I think should go up this week. But I'm like I didn't really I'm in a rock and a hard place where it's like, do I buy the game for the console that the mere setup of the Series X is stricken with DRM, or do I buy it for the console that doesn't have the DRM, but I have to go through the fucking digital download process just to get Phantom Liberty up and running.
Exactly.
It's
It's
like
just madness. It's
so
just madness.
you do think Hi-Fi Rush, Starfield, you think they'll get physical prints on PlayStation and like be, complete
Yeah,
on the disc?
it would be stupid not to. It's a market that constantly like even if limited runs stepped in and was the people to do it, like they will
Right.
I will guarantee. But Starfield, I believe, did get a physical
Hmm.
release on Xbox, but yeah, Hi-Fi Rush didn't, and I still don't understand why.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so weird. Yeah, yeah, Hi-Fi Rush. That's the thing that really bums me out is like I want to be there with you guys in the picketing in the revolting we're not going to support this, but I got to be completely honest. They put out a good disc, that ensures that all the content is on the disc for the PS5. If I can't get that for the Series X, I'm going to get it for the PS5. Like as a consumer, it's just like a no-brainer to me.
Yeah, it's it's just worrying. And I'll even say this, look, if they back out of the console market, I'm done with them as well.
That's the thing, because you are that's really, yeah, that's the probably the point we should have hit on from the get-go, because you are entrenched in that ecosystem for decades.
Yep.
And like all your digital purchases, all your achievements, like ooh,
Yeah, because they've shut down so many other avenues because they also used to have direct integration with the Windows games. You used to
yeah.
be able to get achievements with them. They had the Windows Phone. They've shut all this down, shutting down the 360. So they're not scared of cutting off player base is like that and out in the cold and just being like, yeah, you can't access it anymore. Like
Ooh.
that's just a shame, you know. Just
You
move
you've
forward with time.
you've probably spent thousands of dollars through digital purchases on the Xbox, I would assume.
More than that.
Yeah.
You
So
could
it's
probably buy a second hand like low tier sports car with how much I've spent.
ooh,
Yep.
yeah,
Because
that's
I went through a period of time prior to college. I was a fully physical person. I only would buy physical games because I
mm,
couldn't afford. I was a kid. College all the way up to I'd say probably 2017. It was just only digital stuff. You're
yeah.
talking everything that I consumed was only digital because it just made sense. And then something clicked in my head and I was like, well, why am I like, if I don't like something as well, I'm stuck with this. I can't get a
Yeah.
refund. So like, because I think you did a clearing out of like your games recently as well. Even if you just get back like a percentage,
Yeah.
it doesn't feel as big of a, like a blow.
Yeah.
And that's yeah, that's how I felt. And I was like, I also want to own these things tangibly. It's nice having that in your hand.
The thing that's I think the most sketchy about all this is okay, Hi-Fi Rush 2023 because they're saying I'll actually read this article a little bit of this article that
Sure.
way people can kind of have some sort of insight here. This is from Insider Gaming. They pulled this from Xbox Era. Several new claims have suggested that Starfield, originally slated to be an Xbox exclusive, could be coming to the PlayStation 5 soon. The report outlines that Hi-Fi Rush and Sea of Thieves will also be coming to rival platforms soon, with the announcement that Hi-Fi Rush could release as soon as Q1 of this year. It said that a public statement from Microsoft on this news is expected this month. So that's concerning, but I think this is more concerning. Indiana Jones as well could be coming to PS5. And this is according to Tom Warren from The Verge. And so it's like it says a release for PS5 is being considered for some months later, with Bethesda tentatively targeting a December 2024 launch for Xbox and PC. So like, okay, cool. Starfield, Hi-Fi Rush, you maybe wait a year or so to get those, something like that. Okay, it's been a year since Hi-Fi Rush. It'll probably be a year by the time Starfield comes to PS5, but a couple months
Yeah, that's just madness.
for Indiana
That
Jones,
that
it's
that
like,
shows they have zero faith. They sit there and boast about the numbers and everything, but they truly have no faith in the Xbox ecosystem.
yeah. And because that's the thing with Indiana Jones, you know, I'll play it because it's on Game Pass, but like, dude, if I did not have an Xbox already, no chance I would buy it
No,
this generation.
exactly. With this news breaking, who the hell is gonna go out there and be like, yeah, I'll buy this $500 box that's looking to be obsolete very, very quickly?
But man, it's like it's the yin and the yang in my head. My business brain kicks in, and I'm like, they've both PlayStation, Microsoft, Sony, Microsoft, they've talked openly about how the console manufacturing business is not a profitable endeavor. Like it's not. eh, I'm using loose terminology there. Like they can make profit, but like it's not. That's not where they make the bulk of their money.
Yeah, whenever they produce a console, they make it at a loss. Every piece of hardware they make it at a loss because they will recoup that money back with hardware sales of software sales, sorry, is
Yeah.
what I meant to say.
And it's like, okay, so if that's the reality, then like what the fuck are we even discussing? You know what I mean? If that's the reality, if the reality is we lose money making Xbox boxes, then I mean, purely from a business standpoint, it's like Okay, let's quit making the boxes. I
Yeah.
mean, I hate, I don't want that to be the reality. I hate that reality, but like just business brain, it's like, duh. If that's a possibility, then duh.
Mm. Yeah.
It's
This it's going to be a crazy like next 10 years is going to be like the biggest shift in gaming, it feels like, because it's already rumbling and it's going to look nothing like it is now in 10 years because people are already like completely divided on that physical digital front. Because I saw people in the comments of some of these articles when they're talking about, phasing out physical copies, and there's people who are genuinely like clapping their hands at it and cheering it on. And it's just like, well, when you have
what?
that many people who are that indoctrinated of thinking that physical is like a waste of time, like how do they stand a chance? Because these are usually the people that are making these comments are the younger children who have been handed a
Oh yeah.
phone from day dot. They've never held a piece of physical media in their hands, so it's completely foreign to them. They don't value that. And it's going to be
Yeah.
sad that they're not going to get the opportunity 40 years, 30 years down the line of some of these people who are going and hunting for like old Pokemon games and stuff. Like, yeah, they're through the roof in prices, but that's like your childhood, and you're able to hold it in your hand and be like, yeah, I had this as a kid. Should have held on to it.
Yeah, and dude, I gotta say, I would be all for the digital revolution if there was some sort of established law or established,
Mm,
binding agreement where you cannot have it ripped from you because like shit is being just ripped from people. You
yeah,
know what I mean? Like you saw the Discovery thing with PlayStation where it's like I think Discovery, I could be wrong on the entity, but like a bunch of content was being pulled,
yep,
purchased content that you owned being pulled from you. And it's like if we could get that under wraps, and if we could, have some sort of understanding with emulation, and like there are ways that digital preservation could actually be more beneficial than physical preservation. And I understand that. But
yeah.
we're so far away
I
from
don't
like
think it will ever happen though. That's the
I don't
thing.
either. Our
Because
lawmakers are 100.
because it's something, this may sound silly, it's something that's like been circling in my brain for many years as like a what could possibly be done. Um, because you think of all these things of it's an art form technically. It is art. People draw the characters and everything. It's animated. It is a form of art, and yet they're
Oh, for
willing to
sure.
just flush it down the toilet. Could you imagine that? The Mona Lisa. Oh, it's not really in like it's not really in like modern tastes anymore. You may as well just rip that down and just put it in the bin.
Yeah.
It doesn't do anything for us anymore. Like that's crazy. And the only thing that I could think of is that you would need, and even then, this isn't like airtight, but you would need like a third party organization to come in, completely non-profit, because that would be the first thing of like where they would just shut it down and be like, no, you're making money off of it. And you would need like, because there's a video game museum, I believe, that does
Yeah.
this to a very small degree where they keep like MMOs up and running and stuff like that. But it would need to be a charity organization keeping these things up and then turn it into like a subscription model of where people donate each month and you can keep these things and you can have access to it and then have that donated to a cause as well as keeping the infrastructure up. But I don't think it would ever do that because you have so many tangled webs of licensing issues because even just like a racing game, you think of all the music tracks that they've applied, all of the car manufacturers that they've obtained the rights to. If it's real
Yeah.
places, like for instance, the crew, it's real world locations they've decided to pull that they've probably had to get permission to do and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's like it's never gonna happen, even with like the perfect plan, because you will never get
Yeah.
all these parties to come together and be like, well, no, we'll if we know that it will make money, we'll just re-release it in this modern age.
And that's a funny thing that you bring up there with uh the licensing issues. I just played through Spec Ops: The Line this weekend, and I really was like, it was kind of this thing today where I was like, yeah, I'm gonna burn through this game because I got it backwards compatible. I got a 360 copy of it. Let me go ahead. Let me go ahead while everything's still active here, while I can boot this thing up.
Well, it
Let me
still
go ahead.
works.
Yeah, let me go ahead and run through this copy before. Who knows what the hell we have in store for the future with the Series X and all. And I don't know. I guess to circle back around, do you think that like that's a wrap? Do you think if this is all true, you think that's this is the end, as Jim Morrison would say?
Um, if all of these rumors turn out to be true, this is definitely their step out of the console
Mm.
ecosystem. This is going to be a thing where they will just become a Sega, of where they're abandoning the production costs for consoles and cutting that completely out and just going completely into a publishing aspect. And it's because I was speaking to a friend before I come on here who has experience in the business field, and like, yeah, it makes sense with what you've been saying. You think of all these costs and everything. If they've looked at the numbers and they just you always, especially if they've become one of the first $1 trillion business, right?
Yeah.
$1 trillion company, you
Yep.
can't just make money anymore. You need to make more money. You can't just hit an equal milestone. You need to surpass that every single quarter, otherwise you're deemed a failure.
Yeah.
And
Publicly traded companies.
it's why they're already big. What was it when Blizzard got the merger and everything? They laid off like 2,200 employees immediately,
Right.
just like that. Like I
Right.
get it when you're merging companies, you have things that overlap,
For
so you
sure.
won't need two of certain things, but you're still gutting. It was still being reported that a bunch of even developers are getting their jobs taken away, which you
Yeah.
would think you want these firing on all cylinders. You want as many people in that studio to get these games out.
Yeah. I mean, again, the what was it? The open world survival game that Blizzard was creating got canned. Like they had, that wasn't just a redundancy sort of snip. That
Mm,
was real jobs being cut too. And
yep.
like, yeah, it is that thing of you're kind of just it's never enough. It's this attempt for endless growth when you're a publicly traded company. Like
Yep.
if you profited 3 billion last year, you got to get to 3.5. And
Mm.
hey, that might not even be enough. We need to push it to 4. Like it never ever stops. It's brutal. It's brutal, dude.
Yes, well, us looking on the outside looking in, we're baffled by Square and their mindset on the Western companies that they had, the IPs of Tomb Raider and Deus Ex, because we were looking at it and we was like, dude, these are either doing better numbers than most games or they're on par with it. But it's because they wanted more. They were always setting that bar way, way, way too high, and it's just waiting for it to collapse. And it will either completely collapse or you do what they did and just sell off low. You take the small hit and you just don't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah, and that's the weird thing. Like when you look at Tomb Raider 2013 compared to Uncharted, like I don't even know where they get the numbers. That's the crazy thing. It's like Tomb Raider 2013 sold better than I think every Uncharted except for 4, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken. So it's like you were you were chasing that and you did better than that, but it's not enough. Like make it make sense to me, Square. But no, but you're right. It is like, if okay, that hit 13 million sales or whatever, and we had this one game that we released in 2013 that flopped, so we needed Tomb Raider 2013 to hit 24 million sales to make up for that one game that
mm,
flopped, to appease the investors, to get them a 7% return, because last year we got them 5. We need to get them up to 7 this year. It's
yeah,
like,
it's just
yeah,
madness.
you can't win in that cycle. Yeah, I had to. blah, 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 blah.
Yeah,
Just
just stay private is what I want these companies to do. Do the CDPR thing. Don't be bought out. Do Larian. Don't be bought out.
Valerian.
Fucking hold your own. You've shown that you can do it, and you don't compromise your vision.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder too, I wonder if that Activision acquisition caused a real like internal conflict within Microsoft first party where they're like, wait, all of their games get to go to PlayStation and Nintendo, but we're Bethesda. Like, we what's the difference? You know what I mean? I
Hmm.
get it. We get the difference. Live service, wanting to have as big of a player pool as possible, but I imagine Bethesda's like, we want as big of a player
Well,
pool as possible.
you think of all their head honchos at Bethesda. They're like, "Look, that's fat paychecks. You're just leaving outside for us. That's big money that you're leaving out on the table that we could be having as well. Where's our
Right,
cut? You may have bought us, but we still want big money."
right. And I used the 50 million console metric earlier compared to the 100, which that would be for last generation. But and we don't know what it'll end up getting to this generation. I would imagine somewhere around the same, unfortunately. But that's the crazy thing because like I don't even know when I look at what PlayStation is doing, I'm like, that's not compelling to me at all. You know what I mean? So it's like, is it just the goodwill? The carryover from the PlayStation 4 generation where it was banger after banger after banger after banger, and it's like people just kind of like, okay, well, I'm sure it's going to be more of the same. But to me, I just personal anecdotal experience, I don't feel like it's more of the same at all. I feel like there's
No,
a
they've been digging deep with them live. What is it they got releasing on like the same day? Helldivers 2 and something else?
and foam stars, yeah. Here's you want to look at their content output this year. You got Helldivers 2, Foam Stars, Concord, like they're pushing the shit out of this live service initiative, and that's the thing. That is the thing. It's like if there is not that competitor, and even if you don't even have to be the competitor that necessarily outperforms because they're not going to. It doesn't even matter that
Mm.
part. The black eye is the thing that matters because when you look at that 2023 summer showcase from Xbox compared to the PlayStation one, I understand it's not a financial win, but optically, that Xbox showcase shit on the PlayStation one. And it's like you don't want to be in that position as a company when your rival competitor is like building up all this hype and there's a positive buzz, and then with your ecosystem there's like negative rumblings. But when you don't have that thing to compare to, then it's like, yeah, here's our next showcase, and we're gonna give you Concord, and we're gonna give you Sony Bend service game, and we're gonna give you London Studio service game. Oh wait, Ghost of Tsushima 2, that we got a live service element in that as well. And it's like, yeah, I don't know. I could ramble on and on about this, but you need that competition. And
Yeah,
and yeah,
and to link into that, do you really think that PlayStation would have given all of these PlayStation 1 and 2 classic games onto their service if Xbox wasn't losing and did that little below the belt punch and was like, yeah, here's a backwards compatibility initiative? If Xbox was on top, they wouldn't have cared. They would have been in the same route that Sony was at, whether it's like, why do we care about these old games? We're selling absolutely ridiculous amounts of copies for these brand new games. When you have even just that lower competitor, like you said, they don't need to be toe to toe. They just do a few below the belt punches throughout the generation, and you get innovation. If Xbox taps out now, PlayStation, like you can say, yeah, Nintendo is technically a console, and but they don't. They do not. They they just don't. They don't look at what anyone else is doing. They do not care, and they know that they
no,
don't care because whatever they do will just sell. You
yep,
look at Breath of the Wild and people saying that, oh my God, it's a revolutionary game. It's essentially just a pretty Far Cry game. It has towers and everything. It's an open world game. It's one of their very first that they've done to that scale. And it blew the Nintendo fans' minds. And it's like, well, this is what a lot of us are getting already on PlayStation and Xbox. But the reason that they get the praise is because they don't look at what anyone else is doing. They're usually 10 years behind what everybody else is doing. And they're happy with that because they know it just sells.
Yeah. Yeah. I I mostly agree with that. I especially agree with the fact that like you're never gonna see PlayStation look across the aisle at Nintendo and be like, "Oh, damn." Ah. But you know what? Actually, I gotta say, I gotta take that back a little bit because it seems that Sony's getting back into the handheld market. So at least from that standpoint, I think the Switch did kind of. But it's gonna be. It seems like it's gonna be more of a thing where you can just download PlayStation
Yeah,
4 games, if I'm not mistaken. So
yeah, I don't know what's going on with that. I feel
I
like
think
they
that'll.
want to just recapture the lightning in the bottle of the original PSP and how that was like a big hit. Because no one really touched the Vita, which was really sad because it was a really good handheld,
Yeah,
really good. Had some good exclusives on it as well that were only on the Vita, which is
yeah,
crazy.
and I think supposedly because I listen, I hate all the. I don't like any of that shit. Connect. I don't like VR. I don't like the PlayStation Portable, whatever they're calling it now. I don't need any of that. I don't want any accessories, software, games. That's the
Mm,
only thing I give a shit about.
yep.
I will say though, their little new cloud streaming handheld thing, the what do they call it? The Portal, PlayStation Portal,
Yeah, I think something like that.
whatever the hell it is. Supposedly it's selling gangbusters. So it's like, okay, if there is a market for this and you can actually download your games natively, then shit, that makes a ton of sense to me. But
But that's the gimmick market, isn't it? You look at how many like the Wii broke console sales records and then fell off really quick.
mhm,
And the VR was doing really well for a short period of time and then fell off really quick.
yeah,
The gimmick market burns extremely bright and just fizzles out just as quick. So these like portal things that like you mentioned, like they're selling well now. Are you really going to be buying that in like 3 years' time? Probably not.
yeah, yeah. I really, I don't know, man. Because I would almost say the same thing about the Switch. Like, it kind of is gimmicky to me. Like, to me, a console is one thing. You put the disc in the console, it plays game. Like, but I don't know. I think that I have kind of a archaic view on a lot of this stuff. If I'm being totally honest, for one, I live out in the boondocks where I get a 12. My upload speeds and download speeds are in the toilet. So it's like I don't see the world through like this high, up to date. Everything's running at optimal speeds. Like I don't my lens for that isn't clear enough. So it's like I really don't know which of these gimmicky sort of devices are really going to take off. Um, but I will say it's Xbox really kind of paved the way for a lot of these innovations.
Mm.
And I I do have some curiosity and even maybe some belief that this is just going to be the way of the future. What Xbox is doing right now with everything going full third party publisher seemingly. Um, I do kind of feel like that might just be what we see in 10 years when this cloud stuff does go through the roof.
Yeah. Yeah, because you don't want to have it done immediately. You want these infrastructures in place. You want pillars set up and to be ready for that change. You don't want the rug ripped out from underneath you.
I hate to just keep on going in circles with this, but my brain and we should say this is like super fresh. We didn't really prepare for any of this. Like this news hit, and we
Hey, it's
just
part of
kind
the
of
name.
are
It's rambling. They know what they're getting into.
right. Yeah, yeah, right.
There is no script.
But I do, it just hit me like, what the hell is the purpose of that next Xbox that's supposed to release in like 2026 or whatever? Why would you do that at this point?
Because it must have already been in development before they made these decisions. These consoles are in development for many, many years behind the scenes. So they've already pumped money into it. They think maybe, all right, we'll kick that out, get a bit of money back, hopefully, from the prototype and production costs.
Do you just write it off at this point though? Like, I, be, if you really don't believe in your ecosystem to that degree, then I just don't really understand. Well, unless like there are, if they look at their metrics and they're like, okay, well, there's enough people who have just been playing Xbox since 2005 with the 360 and they're bought into this ecosystem with trophies and digital libraries. Like maybe they could just continue having, because being third place doesn't necessarily mean you're failing if it's still a profitable business model.
But that's where it links into them being that $1 trillion and having to constantly up the milestones.
But that's the thing that I'm saying. If you still can cater to the people who are there, who are supporting the business endeavor that you pursued with the original Xbox 360, and you have people who are bought into that digital library and achievements and all that, and if that is somewhat sustainable in and of itself, do you keep that afloat and just sell the shit out of these $70 games to the PlayStation and Nintendo audience?
Yeah, I have no idea. This is why it's going to be the interesting switch as to what they actually decide to do. Whatever they decide to announce will be interesting. If they're going to turn around and say, look, these are all going to be PlayStation accessible, $70. It could even be, people were laughing, saying that Game Pass would never be on PlayStation. All of this back and forth, how do we know that there weren't a backdoor deal being done after all? Because what was it? Jim Ryan's no longer the head of PlayStation, is he? He got
Right.
replaced.
Yeah.
He might have been so opposed from that, and they were like, "No, get out of here. This new guy's willing to do deals with them. We
Did you
can get Xbox Game Pass onto the PlayStation."
did you see how Herman Hulst was kind of peacocking at that state of play? I got some Herman Hulst kind of might be moving up energy from that state. I don't obviously I have no idea, but that was a little bit of he kind of had his chest out. He talked to Kojima. He said, "Man, I've been telling this guy forever he needs to do another stealth action adventure game,
Yeah,
and we got it now."
exactly. They got him in his pocket. Of course, they're gonna peacock. That's a massive get because Xbox were doing the same thing when they were like, "Yeah, we got him for a cloud game," and PlayStation's like, "Yeah, well, we got him for a real game.
We
How
got
about
him for
that?"
Metal Gear. Good God, man. Oh, I have so many, like my brain is going everywhere. I have so many questions I want to ask you about this. Okay, so they did say that they will clarify this, and once again, this not my words, this is from Xbox era, the fella Nick over there.
Mhm.
Um, okay, where is it at? It said that a public statement from Microsoft on the news is expected this month, February, this month. What does that statement look like? Hit me with your prediction. What the hell is said in that statement? Like
I mean, if they leave it, you said to the this month, right? They need to get that
this
out
month.
quick because there's damage control that needs to be done. It's Twitter for Christ's sake. Like it's already been fanned the flames. People are already up in arms. There's anger. It was only what announced less than 12 hours ago.
Yeah, no, this what I'm pulling from is like a few hours ago,
Yeah.
4 or 5 hours ago.
So
Yeah.
they need to get that under wraps quick. But the only way I can see you getting like good publicity is just playing the good guy, like you said. Playing the card of, look, we're rethinking the way games are being done. Let's be away with exclusivity. It's not good for the consumer. That would be
That's a good spin.
a really good card to play, and just be like, look, we've been saying this for many years now, because he has been. There is evidence of that. Phil Spencer saying that he wants games everywhere.
But then there's evidence the other way too.
No, exactly, because
He's
it's.
golly, buddy.
I think he was just it's just playing his cards. He was putting it into each pile and being like, look, if this pays off and we can do this the old traditional way, us acquiring these studios and they can like we see a huge flock of PlayStation players come and play Starfield, then yeah, man, we're all about exclusivity through
Right.
PlayStation. But they saw that, a lot of people it is just the truth because you were saying about how you view Nintendo as like a gimmicky console. When you're that ingrained into your ecosystem, you just have to eat whatever they put out for you. Whatever the next Nintendo console is going to be, they will just eat it up. It could be the size of a Tamagotchi, and they would just have to accept it.
You hit a really interesting thread there that I want to pull out for a second. You said, so, you said after these acquisitions, and does it translate to, PlayStation owners buying the box or getting into Game Pass through PC or whatever the case may
Mm.
be? Is Starfield, is that because you're not getting a bigger game than Starfield. You're just not. I understand it didn't click with certain people, yada yada yada. That is a BGS title.
Yeah, exactly. That's the next big thing that they were producing. You're talking about the people who made Skyrim. It still makes waves to this day.
So do they did was the metrics, was the data just after Starfield, and I know it did well for them. It was supposedly like the biggest wave that they'd ever seen for Game Pass in terms of new players entering because of one individual game, which would have, but like if they looked at that and they said, okay, this is where our ceiling is that kind of the breaking point? I really wonder if Starfield, shouldn't say lack of success, it was obviously successful. I wonder if it just didn't hit that milestone that they were hoping for with a new player pool entering. Do you think that could have been
When
one
did
of
it
the
release?
straws?
It was like September, right?
September, yeah, 2023.
So it made huge waves. It was very, divided. I think now you think of how many months have passed. They're probably looking at that data and being like, okay, we saw this huge influx. How many of them stayed subscribed though? How many of them
Right.
kept an active live account on an Xbox? Did they just come here for Starfield because maybe a friend gave them the console to borrow, or maybe they used it with the cloud stuff and they used it with the trial version and stuff? Because that's the only because it was such a huge success. You would think that they would want to keep building off of that. So all I can think of is maybe the numbers of the retainment were just really low after a while of where they jumped in. Because I think I can't remember the achievement percentage, but there was like it was like a 20% gap of you're not even in that like intro tutorial all that long. And some people didn't
Right.
even beat that tutorial. They were just like, this ain't for me. I'm out. So you can clock that as a number of an active player, but they're not seeing it through to the end. They're not
Yeah.
beating the game. They're not playing it for any period of time.
Do you think at this reveal, I don't know what you want to, I don't know what it will be, reveal a bad
Heartbreak.
yeah, yeah, the heartbreak reveal. Um, Whenever Sarah Bond or Phil Spencer, whoever, Matt Booty, whoever, I'm assuming maybe all of them, um, or maybe they just do the Xbox. They have like a little podcast that they've been doing. Maybe they just hop on the podcast, talk about it openly there. Do you think they admit defeat? Do you think? Because to be totally honest, I would really respect that if they
he,
just came.
he already has, hasn't he? Because that's what people have mocked, is that he's saying that we can't compete with PlayStation.
Yeah, I guess he actually. Yeah, yeah, I guess.
He's owned up to that on several occasions, but that like if you mean like accepting defeat as in we can't stay in this console market, that would be
I don't even necessarily mean that at all.
Okay, okay.
I mean,
That's a
I would
big, that's a big thing.
no, I don't really because I don't even know if I definitely don't want that, but I would respect if he said because there's just been so much doublespeak. And I think a way to clear the doublespeak would be to say, listen, we put all of our effort, all of our energy into building the Xbox brand. We stumbled at the most inopportune time to stumble with the Xbox One, which he has said. But
Mm,
then to follow it up to say, look, we have the data, we have the metrics. We can't continue down this path and stay sustainable, stay profitable in the long term to where we need to be for Microsoft to continue investing in us, however you want to spin it, but just to be like a punch to the gut immediately to just, and I'm not, I shouldn't say admit defeat because it's not like who really gives a shit. They're going to be the most profitable publisher in the world. Like the box be damned, but to just admit what is really happening. I think
yeah,
that is something that I would just like to see. Just admit what is actually going on because we know that's what's going on. We know you want more cash, and you're
mm,
going to charge the other guys $70 to play the games. And I great business strategy, but admit it. You know?
yeah, yeah. It just gets the ball rolling in your head of all these different scenarios, like you said. But yeah, it'll be interesting. They just need to get this out quick, this interview,
So
sometime this week.
is it everything? I guess this would be my last question on it. Is it everything? Because I
I
would
mean,
assume it just has to be,
you asked me this question last episode, and
right?
it was like, no, surely you wouldn't have these, and it's completely different. Like, I
Wow.
don't, I they could put Gears on there now. They could put Halo on there because maybe they're
I
looking at it from a standpoint of, look, they've hit their ceilings on an Xbox console. You're not going to get a 2 million influx more of sales of a Halo game. Why not tap into this 100 million player ecosystem that may have never touched these IPs, rake in all that money, and there you go, boom. Maybe that is the new way of modern gaming. You have it as because we've seen it on PC with the Epic and the Steam thing, right? Epic has been trying so hard to elbow their way in. They're like, yeah, we get these 6 month exclusivity contracts with these games, and Steam's like, okay, I don't care. I have the
yeah.
biggest player base. We'll just wait. They have like 100 releases on a daily basis. We really don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. Epic sent Alan Wake 2 out to die with that bullshit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Man, I could go on and on with this. I still like my brain is just still spinning. I have so many more thoughts, so many more questions that we could sit here and speculate about this until the cows come home. Um, but I guess it's just in due time we'll have some
Yeah,
sort of understanding.
we'll have to see, we'll give our impressions and reactions on what they end up if this interview happens, what we think really will happen moving on from that and how they actually dealt with the situation more importantly, because that's the most important thing
Yeah, absolutely.
is
Absolutely.
reacting to it well.
Yeah, I'm eager to see how all of that goes down. Yeah, very eager to see how all of that goes down. You know what? One thing I do not want to hear, case by case. I do not want to hear that terminology uttered one time. We're going to look at it as a case by case. What?
Yeah, he does like
Starfield?
using that. He does like using that. It's because it's an easy thing to be able to deflect with. Because they can be
Yeah,
like, well, we decided that on this scenario for this, we decided to go down this route and avenue. But for
yeah.
this, we went down this.
Damn, man, right when I was getting into achievement hunting for the first time in my life, I kind of started enjoying the little
Now, stick with it. Stick with it.
oh, I
Stick
mean
with it.
not. Yeah, I'm gonna get it this year for sure. I'm gonna do it this year. But it's like there is something in there where it's like, damn, that I
Yeah, you
really
blew me out of the water in January. Like, don't get me
I
wrong,
have,
I was heavily, because I 100%ed Inquisitor Martyr finally, which took forever. But
yeah.
every time I was looking at that leader score update, it's like, here's another 1,000, here's another 800. I was like, Jesus fucking Christ,
To be fair,
you're on a roll.
I got started a little bit early on some slightly cheaper, not cheaper per se, just like sports games and stuff that I could just mindlessly play. You know what I mean? Where it's like it just old classic sports games that I love from my past that I could just kind of mindlessly play and then not really think about play it for 4 hours straight. And I'm just going through one achievement after
Hey,
another after
that,
another.
but that's the beauty of it, is when it doesn't feel like a chore.
Yeah.
When you're getting genuine enjoyment out of it, that is when achievement hunting is at its peak.
But you know what? That's kind of the crazy thing where it actually, I was like, okay, this isn't natural. This isn't how I would actually play games. So at that, after a certain point, it was kind of fun. It was kind of a relaxing experience to go through it and just sort of turn your brain off for a little bit. But I'm like,
Mm,
I don't want to start really playing games like this. I want to, play the things that like, Spec Ops: The Line and played something right before that. Star Wars Battlefront 2. Just like little things that I kind of want to hop into that I hadn't played. Uh there was something else. Wolfenstein. I think we talked about that a little bit, but it's like more of what I actually would be playing. And that actually is kind of fun
mm,
to go in there and sort of find the meta game to the achievements.
yeah. No,
But
absolutely.
I want to hear about you've been playing some Yakuza and some Persona, man. I want to hear about that. Unless
Oh
you had
yeah.
anything else to say about
No,
the
no, no, no. Well, that might link in as well, to be
Okay.
honest, with some of the stuff. I wanted, I probably blitzed through Yakuza a little bit too quick because my mindset was, I know that Persona 3 is gonna yank me in, and I don't want to be doing these two at the same time. So I ended up finishing up Yakuza in like what, a week, I
Oh,
think.
damn.
I think it was a week. Wow, what a fucking clash of titans for the beginning of the year for a JRPG. Like, it got really mixed. Did you see the reviews on Yakuza as well of the mix?
Like,
Like, it's a really good game, but you guys are charging for New Game Plus and everything.
oh, they're charging for New Game
Yeah,
Plus?
you have to pay $15 for that bad boy.
Oh my God. Hokey smokes. Okay.
So, I think that might hit it in the review department a little bit, but the game is exceptional. Um, without spoilers, they completely dropped the ball with the ending,
Ooh.
in my opinion. They set up this really juicy hook early in the game, and they flirted with it for chapter after chapter after chapter, and then they just didn't do anything with it, and it's just sequel bait. Buy Yakuza 9,
Mm.
and it's like, there you go. Come on, man.
Yeah. And that'll be out
Really?
in 3 months. Good Lord, they cranked those games out.
But wow, like the shift. Like, I was hesitant to see if they could do what they were doing, like in a Japanese setting, moving it to a more Americanized setting. There were a little few stumbles, like they still don't have the English voice acting is very robotic still. It doesn't feel right. But that might be because I don't play Yakuza games with English voice acting. I play it with Japanese and English subtitles. So maybe when it's going through that phase, they actually getting Japanese voice actors to do the English lines, which if that's the case, it's a little bit weird in my opinion.
Yeah.
But wow, like they every other aspect of the game, bar the ending and the weird microtransaction stuff, they looked at like a dragon and they improved upon it. Every single aspect is better.
If you had to score it 1 to 10, where would you throw it? You can use decimals if you need them.
No lie, if the ending was ramped up properly, it would have been a 9.5 for me. Like,
Ooh.
it was incredibly hot.
Okay.
Probably a 9. Like, it's a big chunk off.
Definitely have to play seven before eight, right?
See, I've been talking because I set up a Discord as well, which I'll also link in the description for people that want to continue chatting and stuff like that instead of blowing up the YouTube thing. Me and the physical guy have been talking about it. He's
Sick.
been talking about him wanting to get into the Yakuza franchise, and before playing Infinite Wealth, I said jumping in with seven would have been a good start. With the story, the way it's handled, it might you can jump in at seven, of course, because it is obviously mainly Ichiban's story, but you miss out a lot if you decide to jump in from there. Like a lot of build up and a lot of payoff.
So you need to
And that's
run through like zero all the way up.
zero, Kawami one, two, three, four, five, six.
Boy,
But no, like obviously you can just enter in the things will it will still hit. It's an emotional story. Um, but you won't have connections to the characters as much. They're charming, you'll instantly connect with them, but you won't have as of a deeper connection. But ooh, and then moving on to Persona 3.
hold up. Before you
Oh,
move on,
okay.
I have one question I want
Go,
to
go, go.
ask you. So we got the landscape for what we see for 2023 right now.
Mhm.
Infinite Wealth, is it in the final six
Yes.
game of the year? It is
Yep.
the first one ever, right? I believe.
I mean, that's the thing. That's for me, though. That's
No,
my
but
opinion.
I'm saying for industry at Keeley's award show, do you think it's in the final six?
Man, gamers are a fickle bunch. I think that with them going with that new game plus BS fiasco, I think it
Mm,
probably will rob it of that spot, and Persona 3 will just walk in and be like, thanks for holding the
mm,
door. Because
damn.
I've not seen anything negative about Persona 3 at all. Not a single negative.
Can I ask you one more thing about Infinite Wealth before we move to Persona?
Sure, sure.
Combat wise, I heard criticisms of Seven of Like a Dragon that it got to a point where it was a little bit grindy, a little bit like just sort of filler combat for the sake of filler combat. Did you feel like there was any of those points where you kind of hit a lull in the game where
Yes. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. But I think I chalked that up because I didn't do any side quests.
right.
I wanted to just get through the story, not because that's how I play Yakuza games. Even if Persona 3 wasn't on the horizon, I don't engage in the side quests. I do the main story because it's what hooks me with Yakuza games. And then in my second playthrough, when I'm doing other stuff, I will dip into all these different things. So maybe I was robbed of extra XP, but there's a massive clash about halfway through the game, and I just couldn't do it. Couldn't do it at all. Like I was just getting wiped the floor with, and then they have for the character you have this like dungeon mechanic. So you can just get into random encounter battles out in the street, but you also just have this fixed. You can go to this dungeon and you grind. And I had to do that for about 2 hours, and I was like,
Mm.
this, I'm enjoying this a hell of a lot less, guys. Like this really hurts the
Does
pacing.
it have difficulty settings?
In the first playthrough, no. I think you're forced into like a standard setting, and then if you bought the extra stuff, then when you go into your new game plus, you can play on legend mode and stuff like that.
Damn.
Make it even
Yeah.
more grindy.
Yeah, I was gonna say jot that damn difficulty down, just kind of breeze through it, but yeah.
Um, yeah, but they know that people will buy because you have the shortcut bundles as well on top of that, where you're able to buy player levels.
Oh my God.
Yeah, yeah. No, this is
Ooh.
it's a not a new thing either. Like a lot of uh JRPG. I think Tales even did it. Tales of Arise, you could sit there and buy player levels because they know that people will just be like, man, I don't want to be sitting here for 10 hours grinding.
I don't like that at all, man. Because
No,
that's
but let
you
me slam the foot down. It's not the studio. This is Sega's greed. This is always
right.
the head honcho. This has nothing to do with RGG because they before the Like a Dragon series, they couldn't have done that. And they didn't do that. You got the new game
Right.
plus, you got all this extra crap. They put their heart and soul into Kiwami 1 and 2. Like they are incredible remakes.
Yeah.
But they know
Yeah.
that, this JRPG formula, man, we can monetize the hell out of this because people are lazy and don't want to do these types of things. And they're right. Because the first person to 100% it on True Achievements, you have to do the new game plus to get the 100% as well, which pissed a lot of people off because that's already integrated into the base list. The guy did it in 60
Wow.
hours. It took me about 60 hours to beat the base game.
Mm. So let me ask you this. You did you play, was it The Man Who Erased His Name last year? Think
I
that one came to Game
started it,
Pass?
but I didn't finish it. It's the only
Okay.
one that I haven't finished.
That I think that was the why I get them so confused. There's so many of them. But there was one that came out last year where I heard about the ending on a podcast and I was blown away by how good that ending sounded just from like an emotional depth level. In terms of that style of storytelling with Infinite Wealth, do you think it does it ever really go there, or is it just zany, silly throughout the entire
Oh,
experience?
that's what disappointed me is because without don't mention any details of it. That's linked it. I'm fairly certain I know what you're talking about, what's happened, because it references it in the game. They never go anywhere with it.
Mm,
They dangle the carrot as if something big's gonna happen, and they don't capitalize on it. And it was baffling
mm.
because I
So,
even sat through the whole credit sequence for the extended bit, and they still didn't wrap anything up. And it's like, come on,
so
really?
what is it that makes it like a 9.5 to you? Is it it's the world building, it's the combat loop, the gameplay loop? What is the thing that really like hits it out of the park is like this is next level quality?
The main stories, man. Like, although they floundered the ending, which is why it hits it, like, especially because I was hesitant when they replaced Kiryu with Ichiban.
Mhm.
Um, he's just such a lovable guy. He is just a child in a man's body. Like the things that he comes out with is just what you would expect. Like you're just like, oh my God. For instance, this isn't spoiling anything. You get to Hawaii, and the one of the first things he does is talk about like, I want to hit a tree and get a coconut out of it. And he's like, you can just go down to the shop and like buy a drink. And he's like, no, I've seen it in movies. I want to do this. And he's like, okay, I guess. And he does it, and he's like, wow, that I would have never done that. And he's like, hey man, you got to live life to like the fullest. Because that is what he's just an impulsive guy, and there are other like strings to his story where he's just like you. A normal human being wouldn't do that. He's not a liar. He never lies. He
Yeah.
always he's heart on his sleeve, and he's just the great guy.
And so that's the new guy that
Yeah,
was introduced
Ichiban.
in 7.
Yeah, and seven, the guy with the like weird frizzy afro.
And they did bring back a lot of reoccurring characters from the series in the past, correct?
I
Into
mean
Infinite Wealth.
that's not spoiling it. They do that every single game.
My weird thing is how the hell did they all end up in Hawaii? That's like is that kind of a spoiler, I guess?
Um,
Or just never explained?
well, it has light explanations. They will
Okay.
have their own little reasons to be there. His party is obviously so ingrained and love him that they will go to the ends
To
of
the
the
end of the
earth with
earth.
him. You have these new people that get brought in because they cross paths with him. And the reason that he gets all these people to stick with him is because he is a lovable guy. These
Yeah.
people, even the people that hate him to begin with, end up loving him in the end because you can't not love the guy.
So this to you is like a character driven experience, and that's the guy, and that's the thing that elevates this
Yeah.
entire video game is like that individual being, his essence is like
Mm.
it catapults it to heights where video game characters rarely get.
Yeah. And because it's a perfect balance of that seriousness and the wacky crap that he gets, even in like the main stuff, just some of the stupid things he gets involved into. Like a big thing, which also isn't a spoiler, you have Animal Crossing in the game, for Christ's sake.
I saw that.
You
Yeah.
just, out of nowhere, you just wake up and you're like, oh, well, I'm just on this island now. And you meet these
That's
mascots and you're like, okay, well, what's going on? And they're like, well, we got to clean up the island from these people that keep dumping stuff on it. And any other sane person is like, no, why am I going to do that? He's just like, hell yeah, let's get my bat and let's do this.
that's so cute. Uh, so let me final question. And I'm not one to talk at all on this, so I'll preface it by saying I'm a Resident Evil fan, and they're churning those things out like clockwork. Doing the same thing with Yakuza, even on maybe a slightly more egregious level. Not to say egregious as if it's like a I don't mean this as a derogatory slant, but there's a lot of Yakuza, a lot of Like a
Mm,
Dragon, a lot of these
yeah.
games coming out. Are you close to the point where you need to kind of you need some separation, or you just hit them?
No, because this is what a friend asked me as well, is how can they all be so good? You sit there and you say that they're all so good. They just have the perfect they always blend in crime drama. There is also always every single time throughout every single story, there's at least three huge twists that you would not see coming. They can either be really serious and dark, or they can be the stupidest, wackiest crap going. And you will always love the characters. That is it. That's the trio formula of why they will never get old as games.
Final question. I swear this is my last question. But here's the thing. I won't have as many questions for Persona, but like with Yakuza, it is a series I desperately want to play through. So I'm just, yeah, mini games. Because I love the mini games in Judgment. Are there new mini games in Infinite Wealth that kind of,
Well, you can shed light on this. I didn't like Judgment. I never
oh, you didn't
finished
like
either.
it?
I didn't like Yagami. And
Oh man, I love
no,
Yagami.
but this is what hurts me because you've not played the. If I didn't play Yakuza, I'd probably warmed up to him so much more and think he's like the bee's knees.
Yeah.
He does not hold a candle to Kiryu or Ichiban. He just doesn't. And that's what like I can't get into because it's just like
Kiryu, he's in Judgment, correct?
I have no idea. I did 3 hours of Judgment, and I think I tapped out after that.
I'm gonna see if he's in there.
He usually makes an appearance in every game. He's like the main man.
Okay, no, I don't think he is in there. Um, yeah, it's saying he's not in there. I must have had him mistaken with someone else. But so Kiryu, did he? Yeah, that might be into the spoiler range. Okay, well, I'll bounce out of the Yakuza
No,
questions.
he's hold on. Let me just quickly run so that I can. He's on the cover, and they say about it's
Uh,
two dragons, so that's not
okay,
a spoiler saying that he's in the game. But yeah,
okay,
he makes an
okay.
appearance.
Oh, you had to check to make sure he was on the cover?
Yeah, and
Ah, okay.
it says in the marketing material that it's two dragons with different stories. So
Okay. Okay, cool.
it's
So
it. They couldn't have been more obvious saying that he's in the game.
so you said what did you want me to touch on about Judgment? The mini games? Is that what we were talking about?
Yeah, like what mini games are you talking about? Like, what did they
So
have?
in Lost Judgment, you had skateboarding, you had boxing, you had a robotics club, you had motorcycle driving, you had and then in terms of like, the activities you could go and engage with out on your own, you had the batting cages. It was
Yeah,
like a
that's
home.
always a staple. Yeah.
I love that one. That's so
You have
fun.
batting cages, mahjong. You have,
Top Golf was one that they introduced.
I don't know if golf, I don't think golf's been in the series prior to that. I'm
So
trying to think of the other one. It's gone.
what was like the cool new additions to Infinite Wealth if there were any? I love the mini games. They're so fun.
Animal Crossing in its own game.
Right.
Pokemon called Sujimon, which was its whole. These two, these aren't just mini games. These are like you can get like 15 hours. Like they're their own games in the game. For
So
Christ's sake.
insane.
You have an Uber Eats delivery system mini game where you're just on a bike, you get power ups and you're doing flips and everything, and it's just madness.
That
You
is
have
perfect.
I wouldn't really say a mini game per se for this, but you have like you clean up the oceans, you can swim out and stuff, and you dive down and get stuff, and then you bring it back to
Oh, that's
shore.
cool. That's cool as shit. There's swimming in
Mm,
it.
yeah, there's swimming, but it's not really. It's very, very two-dimensional. Like, I'm
Oh,
talking like you
okay.
swim out, there's like a highlighted circle area, you click X, your guy dives, picks up the item, and then you keep going. There's a
Okay.
very light thing. But yeah,
I get you.
everything that was previously in there, like the batting cages are there and everything. You have fishing, which is
I don't
very simplistic.
Yeah, I don't think fishing was
Yeah,
in
fishing.
Judgment.
Oh, in Judgment, are you saying? I was gonna say in Yakuza, it's always been in there. You could always fish.
Yeah, I don't remember that in Judgment. I could be mistaken. I didn't do absolutely every side quest, but yeah, man. So nine in the nine range for you, 9.5 ish or so for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, nine. It would have been 9.5 if they didn't fall flat on that ending.
Okay, so
But
somewhere in that realm.
that's still incredibly high praise. Like to have screwed up the ending that badly, in my opinion, and still be like, I'm still sitting here being like, dude, this is just going to be a game of the year contender for me, no doubt. Microtransactions, bad ending aside, this game is incredible.
That's sick, man. That's sick. I'm going to play through that franchise at some point. I really will at some point. I just don't know. I don't know if that's a retirement game or I don't know. I don't know. At some point, I gotta get through it.
What you were saying with your window cutoff is like 20 hours, isn't it? For like a single player game, essentially.
No, definitely not.
No?
No, I'll play. I mean, I played Starfield like 70 hours last year. I I love diving deep into a game, but in terms of when if I'm looking to clear some stuff off the backlog, I'm looking at Spec Ops The Line and
Mm.
Hellblade and Wolfenstein. I like clearing off those 8 to 10
Well,
hours.
I'll say this. Like Yakuza Zero, because I have a friend playing through the franchise right now. I was so excited for Infinite Wealth that they've gone and in the time it took me to finish Infinite Wealth in that week and a bit, they already cleared Kiwami and are mostly through Kiwami too. If
Oh, so
you if you just do the main story and very lightly dabble in side stuff, you can get them done in like 20 hours.
huh. Okay, so there are it's 0 through 6 and then 7 and 8 and then like
Zero, Kiwami 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, 9 games.
and
But
then
the last two are they're like 50-hour minimums plus.
yeah. And then we also got like a little side game here, a little side game there. There, yeah.
Ishin, yep. Dead
It's a
Souls.
Yeah, and I'll definitely when I do it, it'll be that I'm gonna go through every single one of them. So I need to prepare for that. That's probably gonna be like an entire year of dedicated on just that, or breaking it up into 7 games here, 7 games next year, 7 games the year after. We're probably gonna be on Yakuza 37 by that point, but hit me with Persona 3, man. Curious to see how that one lived up for you.
This disappointed me in a few ways,
Oh,
and this
really?
is and this uh, how to put it. I'm a new fan to the series. I didn't play Persona 3 when it came out on like PS2 and stuff like that. It was when they got ported to Xbox, whatever it was, like 2021, 2022. And
Recently, yeah.
it just clicked with me and just sunk its teeth in. They've changed like almost all the voice actors,
Hmm.
but kept them in different roles, so it's extremely jarring. So my favorite character in Persona 3 is Akihiko, who's one of like the main cast, and it's voiced by Liam O'Brien. Really powerful voice. The voice of War from Darksiders, the voice of uh, the guy from Nier, the book that floats around. And they've just got someone completely new to do his voice, and then he's
Ooh.
just this random other character, the police officer, and it's just like that don't sit well with me. Like that would just be changing Kiri's voice out of the blue randomly. It just wouldn't. Yeah, that's very bizarre. Um, but every aspect of the game that I've played so far is incredibly like really refined. They've overhauled like the Tartarus dungeoning system, even just small tweaks like lunging forward when you attack so that you can actually hit things more consistently. Because you used to just when you attack, you used to it was just an overhead bonk like a Silent Hill 2 attack.
Boy, oh boy.
um, but yeah, like as I said, I've seen it might just be getting more praise than Yakuza because it didn't have the whole fiasco of you're charging for New Game Plus and stuff like this. But I haven't finished it yet. I was hoping to finish it before we did this podcast because I wanted to give like an in-depth, like side by side comparison as to what I think would win Game of the Year. Because you chose Infinite Wealth, right? And I chose Persona 3 for the game draft.
Yes, for sure. Yep.
So it was obviously we're competing with one another. So I wanted to give a little bit more of an in-depth thing, but I think Persona will edge it out.
So, can I ask you this? Dead Space remake or Final Fantasy VII RE2 style remake? What camp do you think Persona 3 fits more in line with it? Is it like full on, from the ground up like Final Fantasy VII or RE2, or does it kind of float in that Dead Space territory where it's like, yeah, it's a remake, but not like really, 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 truly remade?
So I never played. There's two versions of Persona 3. You have Portable and Fez. I never played
Hmm.
Fez because I think that was only on the PS2 and stuff. So in comparison to Portable, you're talking when you're going around exploring, when you're not in a dungeon and you're at like school and stuff, transitioning to other things. It was just a circular cursor. You weren't walking around in these environments.
Hmm.
It was just you click on a door, you go through the door, and then the character pops up and you talk to them. So in that aspect, it's Persona 5. You're walking around all these areas, it's extremely well animated and stuff like that. So
That's full on.
it's hard to say like because I also think people shit on the Dead Space remake a little bit too much as well. I think they did a lot more than what people say as well. They did a lot of
Well,
overhauling.
yeah, I definitely don't mean to shit on it, but there is like I would say like a
Yeah,
clear,
yeah, yeah. The massive jump. I think probably more close to the Resident Evil 2 because it was a camera changing perspective as well.
right.
Same with
Yeah.
this remake. It's complete camera changing perspective. They overhauled the dungeoning system.
Oh, so they're overhauling mechanics as well.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's from changing perspectives to obviously you're talking about a 20-year gap or so from release to, original release to remake release. So yeah, I would assume that's more in the camp of like full on Final Fantasy VII style
Yeah, they
remake.
put tons of effort into it, and Well, another negative is that they changed. I don't know what it is that the music. I think they've got different people to cover it as well. It also just doesn't. It's like this isn't familiar. It's the same songs, but it's not the artists that originally
Mm,
covered it, and it's just like maybe it's Stockholm syndrome of where it's like I've had that song drilled into my head for 60 hours of gameplay non-stop, and then to hear it be different, it's like this doesn't feel right.
yeah, I've often thought like remaking a song or covering a song, one of the worst things you can do is try to do it beat for beat. You know what I mean? Like if you change it up a little bit, then it's like, oh, okay, cool.
Mm.
This is a different take on that. But like trying to do it exactly the same way,
No,
and
that's
then
what it felt like. Yeah.
yeah, you notice those little like, oh, that's slightly off. That's slightly off. Like, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about there.
So yeah, that didn't sit well with me. But yeah, I'm very early into the game, like I said, because I wanted to try and get it done. I was envisioning if this news didn't drop, we'd be doing this round about like the mid of the month, at
Right.
which point I would have had that wrapped up. But I'm only like 2 hours in. But it still is just it's an incredible game. And
Yeah.
the worry of me saying that I think it would have been like Persona 5 with how they shifted the maneuverability of the character when you're out exploring the towns, it doesn't feel nearly as overwhelming. And I think
So
it might just be because Persona 5 is set in like Tokyo almost, where it's very condensed cities, long stretches of hallways and stuff like that. Whereas the Persona 3 setting is a lot more toned back town.
that's appealing to me.
Yeah. So it cuts out a lot of the fat, which is really, really nice. And that's
Shit,
what
yeah,
hooked
dude.
me with the series to begin with.
So we're starting off 2024 pretty strong with some GOTY contenders, man.
Mm.
Pretty strong. So I did a lot left in the pipeline. We got Final Fantasy VII coming up soon. We got Dragon's Dogma the next month. It's GOTY season is starting to starting to gain some momentum pretty quickly. I played Tekken 8, played through and finished the story of Tekken 8, and I mean I'm not a fighting game community guy, but that from all accounts, people are talking about that thing is kind of up there as well, and the story is so cool. I really enjoyed the story for that. So we got an early start to 2024 where we're
Yeah,
kicking in full gear.
that's been landing in the 90s, isn't it? Second,
I I think it was up there. I think it was pretty high up there. Let's
which,
see.
you know, as you said, I'm in the same boat as you. I'm not really like a fighting game person. I play through like the stories of like Mortal Kombat and stuff.
Same.
But they have been making waves like Tekken and Street Fighter lately.
Tekken 8 is at a 90 on Open Critic with 98% of critics recommending it. Who?
How is Infinite Wealth and Persona lining up? Just out of curiosity, this early? Because my prediction would be Persona's just nudging forward a little bit.
Let's do Infinite Wealth. Ba-doom. Infinite Wealth is sitting at a 90 as well, with 99% of critics recommending it. And
Like
let's
Persona
go.
3 is going to be like 91, 92, surely.
So 3. Reload, correct?
Yeah, yeah, reload.
It is sitting at an 89
Oh
with
my God. Well, there you go. There you go, Persona Studio. You should have charged for New Game Plus and you would have got that extra point.
wow. But hey, dude, good start to the year and few heavy hitters coming pretty soon. So it's going to be interesting. I think I might have slightly underestimated 2024 a little bit. I was talking some shit on 2024 early in my predictions video or whatever. I was like, I think it's going to be the worst year since 2019 in gaming, which I still think it could land in there. But we got some strong contenders
Yeah, but that
already.
was, to be fair, like JRPGs aren't your boat. for the most part. So the beginning of the year isn't too like none of them have dragged you in. You didn't see. You obviously want to try the Yakuza franchise, but it wasn't a big enough hook to be like, man, I need to do this right now.
Yeah, that's just a time thing for Yakuza, man. I wish, dude. I would love to play through all of them, but um, yeah. It. I will say though that even when making that prediction, I don't want to give myself a pass there. I was actually trying to analyze it from like an
Mm.
objective perspective, which I know is impossible, but I was actually thinking this was going to be a down year just in general, even including those games that I'm not personally excited for, but I knew were going to do well.
Yep.
I was thinking, yeah, I don't know if 2024 is going to be a great year, but I mean, it's starting off a lot hotter than I expected. I just don't think I expected 90 from Infinite Wealth and 90 from Tekken. Like, never would I have expected a 90 from Tekken and then a 88 or whatever for um Persona, not Persona, Prince of Persia, The Lost
Oh
Crown.
yeah,
Like,
no, that was I don't know what the hell went on there. I had no faith in that game. I was like, wow, you're really just dropping this out. And then it was like, yeah, it's one of the greatest platformers of all time. I was like,
r-
what?
really bizarre. I picked it up. I couldn't really get into it, but I yeah, man, it wild start to 2024. Wild start to 2024. But yeah, dude, that's really all I got on my plate. I've been playing quite a bit of stuff. I played through and finished Hellblade, but
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
leading up to two. I want to like that game. Have you ever been in that situation where it's like you don't like a game, but you want to? And the sequel is coming out or whatever, and you're like, I'm gonna force myself to try to see what everybody else sees about this game. That's the position I was in with Hellblade, and I still don't see what the hell everybody sees in that game.
Yeah, I can't like pin it to memory, but yeah, there's definitely been like parts of that. I'd, like even just Persona 5, like I really want to try and love it,
Right.
but it just doesn't click with me
Yeah.
and stuff like that, which is really unfortunate.
Yeah, it's man, Hellblade, man. It for a game that it maybe took me 5 hours to finish, 6 hours, felt like I was playing it for weeks, dude. It felt like I
Yeah,
put 40 hours into that thing. I was just like, this is a slog, and not because I was oppressed and down about the story and going through the journey was sinuous. Like it was not, it was just like, dude, this is boring as
yeah,
hell, man.
exactly. And that's what my worry about Senua's 2 is going to be because they're bigging it up, bigging it up, bigging it up. And it's like, look, I'm sorry, I get like it was an artsy game. It just didn't click with me, that first game. I just
Me
really
either.
didn't enjoy the
Yeah.
journey.
And I played through it. I finished it. I went all the way through it. I wanted to really see. And I will say, after you get out of that nebulous little forest area at the beginning of the game, when you're circling back through little portals that shift you into different dimensions that clear up pathways for you that weren't there before. Once you get out of that and you're just kind of doing little simple puzzles that get you straight back to walking and listening to voices and hearing a
Mm,
story, like it gets better. And I will say, from an audio perspective, from a motion capture perspective, from
yep,
a performance perspective, from Melanie Jurgens, I believe is her name, the main character, crushes, dude,
yeah,
crushes, like next level performance. The story was good. It was pretentious as shit, but it was a good story. And I do want to see where we follow up with, because it ends on a note that's like, okay, feels a little fourth wall breaky, almost a little self-aware, and I'm like, okay, where that's unique. That's a unique lens to shift into the next game that yeah, not to spoil anything, but it seems like they were even aware at the time that they're making a next game. And that in and of itself is weird because of how independent and
yeah.
artsy this was. It's like, where did you get the confidence to think that a new one was going to come out, a part two to this? I would have never expected that.
That just shows. I think they know that artsy games really do make waves with like critics and stuff. Because even with like Alan Wake 2, selling underneath the bar is what they probably would have hoped. It still did pretty well and was received pretty well.
Dude, did you see that there's murmurs that that's getting a physical?
I mean, the moment that that gets announced, I'll be ordering it. That
I
is, if it
will
doesn't skip
too.
Xbox.
Right. And you know what a bummer is, dude? I think that they were talking about limited run, and limited
Ah.
run doesn't, yeah. Um,
Hey, we got two Persona games I've got coming this year from Limited Run. That's it.
right, yeah. You do get it. Yeah, they do every now and then. They did
They
announce
did
that.
Grim Fandango, I believe. Um, they did a Doom release and then something else. But yeah, they don't pay us any attention. We don't
Yeah, not
exist.
I do know that they announced that partnership with Limited Run a few years back, so it seems like they're trying to build up that initiative a little bit more. But if you
Where's
can
Hi-Fi
have,
Rush then?
yeah,
That would have been a perfect game that you could
yeah,
have just given to them, but nope.
Pentiment, Hi-Fi Rush,
Exactly.
Grounded. What are some other first parties that are, dude? It's gonna like Avowed. If that box art is so gnarly. That box art is so sick. If I don't get to place that box art on my shelf, I'm gonna be so bummed, man. That art has to be, you have to display that art. It's so,
No,
so cool.
exactly.
But
I hope
I'm
they
rambling
can
at this
match it in
point.
that tone as well.
Yes, man. The slight beige with the pinks and the
Mm.
kind of green. Man, what a great color combination. Such a cool box art. But I'm rambling at this point. I'm adding nothing of nothing of value to this conversation talking about boxes.
Well, yeah, we'll wrap it up. That was an hour 45 anyway.
Yeah,
I'm sure people, you got to go to bed.
I gotta take my
It's,
dumb ass to sleep.
it's like midnight there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's midnight.
But yeah, thank you for watching. As I said before as well, um, I'll be linking the Discord in the comments and stuff if anybody wants to continue talking. There's only two of us in there at the moment, and we just talk random crap, nothing special. But yeah,
Chill.
and probably they'll see us for the reaction if they
I
end up
when
announcing it, whenever that
Whenever
is.
that, yeah, whenever that happens, we're hopping on here talking about that because that is, I'm so curious about that. Also, yeah, I don't know where I was thinking that there was something else pending, but my damn brain just slipped. Wasn't there something else? Oh yeah, we wanted to talk about that Embracer situation with Embracer totally imploding and killing off Deus Ex and killing off Piranha Bytes and killing off fucking the team that's making the Teenage Mutant Ninja. Well, we'll get into that at the next.
We'll do that in the next one, yeah. Although
Yeah.
it's already late news to begin with, so it'll be really late news by that point.
Oh,
But
I
yeah,
don't think so. I
no,
do not
you
think
think
so.
more rumblings are on the way?
I don't think we're even close to the end of
Mm,
that implosion. It's gonna get bad, and I'm not. I don't hope that. Well, I don't know if I do or do not hope that because I think it might be the best case scenario to rip the band-aid off and let those teams get somewhere else. Get start up their own thing or get bought or fold
mm,
into Microsoft, PlayStation, whatever. You don't want to stay under that just sinking ship.
no, that's crazy. Well, there you
But
go. We're sequel baiting you with that, like Yakuza did.
yeah, man. But I appreciate you good people for tuning in, man. Like, subscribe, do all that good stuff, comment.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we'll catch you in the next one.
Peace.